Hello and welcome to the Halo Forge Epidemic. This is Oakley Hadef and I'm here to bring you a Forge tutorial on Flood. So for those of you who don't know, Flood is the new revamped and revised mode of infection. So it's going to pit humans as always against the zombies. The zombies however have been reskinned and they look great. The matchmaking will have you try and defend against the horde of zombies with your pistol and shotgun combo. But the point of this tutorial is to show you not only how to make your own infection flood maps, but also how to make your own game type. So stay tuned and we'll be getting into the details of how to do that, because there's a lot for people to do and a lot to experiment with. So first of all, we're going to start with the introduction on how to build your map. So you're going to go ahead and select the game type flood. This will allow you to do some special things while in Forge, such as labeling objects. Then you're going to go ahead and start up your map. So we're going to be starting this on Abandon. And now we're going to be on a map that I've started tinkering around with. So I'm going to show you the basics of what you need. It's very simple. Essentially, the bare minimum of all you need is spawns on the map. Now, how do you differentiate the spawns? So it's pretty easy. You're going to want initial spawns to dictate where obviously the initial players will be starting off, and then you're going to want respawns in case the players die. So what you're going to want to do is label these according to each team. So go up to it, press X, and then what you can do is you can start playing around with the different options. So what I would say is first choose which team it is. So defender is going to be human, attacker is going to be zombie. So let's have the attackers on that side. You're going to want to give them initial spawn points, and you're going to want to give them respawn points. And here you have the humans as the defenders. So that'll be easy. Make sure you give them a lot of spawn points on the map so that they spawn exactly where you want them to, because otherwise if there's an AFK player who sits on the respawn point, they'll block it and then the player will be forced to spawn somewhere else randomly on the map, and that might break your map. Other things that you can do is, say you put a respawn point or an initial spawn point, but you don't want it to affect your other game types. So what you should do is press X, you can go into advanced, and then you can do game specific. So if you do true, then you label it flood. It's going to only appear in flood game mode. So this is a cool way to keep the spawns from interfering with each other. So that's basically all you need to play flood, is initial spawns, and that's it. Obviously the map creation and the weapons is going to be different. Now I'm going to touch on some of the other options. Right here is a spawn camera, an initial loadout camera that you can change to be either for flood perspective or human perspective. This is something you want on your maps just so it shows that you paid more attention to it and you can show off some of the cooler elements of your map. Another element that you're going to maybe want is random drops. So as well as having weapons placed on your map, you can also have drops. Now this can take several different forms. You can either have a random drop, or you can have a sort of the personal human drop and all that stuff. Look at the link right here where we talk about drops. And now what I want to talk about is these random drops and how you can use them in infection. We'll do tutorials on this later, but basically what you can do is have random drops placed around your map such that humans won't be able to camp as often, because the random drops will appear, drop weapons, maybe out in an open area, and the humans, in order to resupply, will have to come out of their caves, grab the weapons, and then retreat back. So that'll help with gameplay. It's not necessary, but it is recommended, just to change up gameplay. And obviously, for this drop, what you can do is choose what weapons will be available for this drop. So you can dictate that here. Now moving along, what else can you do? Well, when you're adding weapons and barricades and all sorts of stuff, maybe, as I mentioned before, you only want it to be in infection. So this turret, for example, it would work great for infection. I'll go ahead and hop in this. Covers this whole area. Maybe that's what I want. So we'll say we want that turret in infection. Well then, I can go ahead and do the options, go to advanced, and say game type specific true, and call it flood. On the contrary, if I have this turret here, and I want it to be in normal game modes but not flood, what I can do is put flood delete. And then I'll turn off the game specific. So what that means is, come flood mode, the game will recognize that I don't want this turret. So you can have all these badass weapons on your map, but the second you get into flood, all the power weapons will disappear, and that'll help with balance. You can also do the same thing for these various parts of your map. So, maybe in flood, for example, I want these crates to be here. Then you do game type specific true and label flood. So these will only spawn in flood mode. Or you can have them removed for flood mode. So those are the options you want to keep in mind when you're building your maps. Again, this has been the basics. So guys, for more tutorials, stay tuned. This has been the Halo Forge Epidemic, and I'm Oakley High Def. Now we're going to cover the game type options. So from the Infinity menu, you're going to go into War Games, go to Customs, and then here you're going to go to the game type, select Flood, and then you go to Game Options. So here you're going to see a whole host of different things you can tweak. So the first menu you can see, you can tweak the time limit, the lives per round, and the number of rounds. Then you have all these different sections. So we're going to go through these. Flood options, basically you choose how many infected there are at the beginning, if there's an alpha zombie, whether suicides count as turning into a zombie, and then you can choose sort of the point system for your game. And so you can see here that you can give survivors points and all sorts of different ways to allocate that. Then general settings, you can do friendly fire, betrayal booting, team changing, and then the loadouts, you can choose right here what the loadouts are going to be. Then you can alter sort of the vehicle sets. And you'll be given 5 loadouts that you can tweak and make available to the players. Then in respawn settings, you're going to choose the respawn time for the different types of things that can happen, and also allow or disallow kill cams. Then ordnance. Ordnance, you can actually have ordnance in flood games, which is cool. So you can have, as mentioned earlier, ordnance appear on the map, or you can do personal ordnance options, which is a cool thing to do, where you can sort of change what players can call in. So that'll be a cool dynamic. Then you can affect the traits. So here, base player traits, this will affect almost everyone. Respawn traits, you could give people some buffs right off of the spawn so they don't get spawn killed. And then there you can change flood traits, alpha flood traits, and the traits of the last man standing. So that about covers it. This has been Oakley High Def with the Halo Forge Epidemic. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. See you guys.